A good friend of mine asked me to make an adapter for his fifth wheel car trailer for the tongue jack. The jack has a real low gear ratio and it only has one speed, so he wanted to be able to pull the handle off and run the jack down to the ground with a drill and then put the handle back on and finish cranking it down. He said from the up position it takes forever to crank it down to the ground level, so having this adapter and a drill will speed things up. He drew up a rough sketch with all the measurements, so I went into Fusion 360 and made a drawing so it'll be easier for me to follow. I grabbed a leftover piece of stock from my scrap pile, so I'll start with the outside diameter. The diameter needs to be 1.5 inches and the length needs to be 3 inches up to the point where the hex drive starts. Here I'm going to touch off and zero out the DRO. Next I'll watch the DRO and move the carriage up 3 inches. Now that I'm at 3 inches, I'll set the carriage stop so I don't overshoot. Now that I'm close to my 1.5 inch diameter, I'll use the vertical shear method with high-speed steel to make a nice smooth finish. The 1.5 inch outside diameter isn't all that critical, but I like to, just for practice, try to get as close as I can. Now I've got the workpiece swapped around and it's time to work on the 1-inch hex. In the engineer's black book, it tells you what the outside diameter of a round piece of stock needs to be to make a 1-inch hex. So if you're making a square, you use this column, and if you're making a hex, you use this column. So to make a 1-inch hex, the outside diameter of the round stock needs to be 1.1547. Now that I hit my target diameter, I'll just clean up the edges. Because I'm working on a scrap piece, the opposite end is a little bit off center. I'm just going to clean it up. It's just for cosmetic. It really doesn't matter. It just bugs me that it's off center. Next, I need to move over to the milling machine and make a 3/8 inch hole, 1.5 inches, which is all the way through, 1 inch from the open end of the adapter. Next, I'll use the edge finder and the DRO to find the center of the adapter. Now that I found the center of the diameter, I need to find the end of the adapter. After I find the edge, I'll move in 1 inch, but I have to add 100 thousandths because the diameter of the edge finder is 200 thousandths. So 1 inch from the end would be 1 inch and 100 thousandths to the center of the 3/8 hole. Now I'll remove the vise and mount the indexer on the milling machine. I'm using the edge finder and the DRO to find the center of the workpiece. I'm using a thin piece of paper to find the touch-off point for the end mill. To determine the depth of cut, I took the 1.1547 and subtracted 1 inch and then divided 1.547 by 2, which was 0.0773. Now I'll use the indexer to rotate the workpiece 60 degrees and make my next cut. Next, it's back over to the lathe. I need to bore a 1-inch hole for the shaft on the trailer, but I just noticed that I didn't put the 2-inch depth on the drawing. You learn from your mistakes, so the hole needs to be 2 inches deep. I test fitted on a piece of 1-inch round stock that I had laying around. It fits pretty good. And here it is with a 1-inch socket. He already tried it on his trailer and said it works perfect. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did making the adapter.